Verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? They doubted, some of them. Now, it could be that there were other disciples around them, although it does talk about the 11 there, and maybe some of them still were doubting it. Like, this is just too amazing. It's too good to be true. It's too astonishing a fact that someone can raise from the dead. They knew that he died. It was absolutely a fact. So it was just really ridiculously challenged for them. And they kept doubting it. Am I really seeing him? I guess. But they went to Galilee, like Jesus said that would happen. He said, I'm going to meet you in Galilee. Now, Matthew didn't record all the appearances. He only records like 2 or 3 or something, or this one especially. He kind of combines them there probably. A lot of times these writers, particularly Matthew, like to do outlines of it and just kind of skimming across the top to get the gist, the idea. Not even detailing it or anything. Sometimes it's detailed, sometimes it isn't. But Jesus absolutely appeared over and over and over. It wasn't just this one occasion or something. And he actually appeared to them when they were in Jerusalem earlier. And then, of course, they went north, and then they found him and saw him, or he came to them, obviously, and they saw him. And it really did happen. Very powerful. Now, what can we make of all this? How can we be sure that this actually happened? Is it possible that they made this up? I've mentioned that a lot. Well, I would like to give you something new that I've discussed, but I'd like to give you some in-depth, a bit of what happened to these apostles and disciples. If they were making up a fairy tale, a make-believe story, a false narrative, a false story, to start some movement, a religion, some different or something. Why did they flee? Why were they afraid? Why did they hide and all that? All of a sudden they come out and start sharing this thing. How did they steal the body? Yeah, over their dead bodies they would have stole the body. I mean, it doesn't make sense. This is obviously a true story. Now, what happened to these apostles? They were threatened over and over to stop talking about Jesus. This is later on in their lives. But if they really did collaborate, work together, and make up this story, then why would they die for it? Would you die for a lie? If you might die for something that you think is true, but if you know it's a lie, are you going to give your life to him for that, to die for it? Almost every one of them died, possibly every one of them except for one, John. And according to legend, they tried to kill him 3 different times in 3 different ways. Well, we're not going to go into that right now. But I am saying that all of these apostles literally gave their lives to Jesus Christ. They literally took up their cross. Some of them were actually crucified, and they died. Now, I would like to go through just briefly, and I'm not going to read all this because it's kind of really graphic. And if you're really young, just listen to my voice. If you're older, you can actually read what I've got written there. I'm going to show it to you in a second. Now, there are different, how do I say it, reports on how they died. Some of them seem to contradict, some we're not sure which way they died. I tend to think this one writer particularly, is called Fox's Book of Martyrs, is pretty accurate there. But I'm going to let you read it if you're old enough to read as I show it to you. And the other thing is, a lot of times they did both. Like they may have stoned them or really hurt them or cut them or whatever. Ugh, awful. But then they added something else and they did it. So if you mix some of the stories and the accounts that are not in the Bible, only one out of all the 11 apostles is in the Bible. It's actually Acts 12, James. And he actually gave his life for this. Now, do you think again that he would give his life believing that they just made up this story? He's about to die, and don't you think that he would say, all right, no, hold on, fellas, don't kill me. We just made this up. No, he believed he saw, he actually saw, and he believed he saw, but he also actually saw Jesus alive after his resurrection, and he died for that. Died for the fact that he actually saw him. That's a big, strong proof and evidence that this is true, that Jesus really rose from the dead. Thank God. All right, so here we go. I'm going to turn this around real quick, and here's the list right here of the apostles, and you can kind of read it if you would like. I'll kind of touch on some of it. Here's the 11 apostles and its death. I mean, their deaths. Andrew, I don't think some of this I can share, I think, with anyone. He died on a cross as well, only it was in the shape of an X. You know, Jesus had sort of a T, a small T. Bartholomew, I'll let you read some of that right there, because that was really intense. And they did various things to Bartholomew. By the way, that Bartholomew name is also probably a nickname, son of Bartholomew, but his name was probably Nathaniel in some of the lists of the apostles. And then there's James right here, and he's the elder. He's a guy that was killed by the sword by Herod. And then James the Lesser, I'll kind of read that real quick. Yeah, we don't want to say that out loud. Just awful, awful, awful. He went through some really tormenting things. John, he died most likely of natural death. They wanted to kill him because he was sharing about Jesus. But finally he became a prisoner on the island of Patmos in the Mediterranean Sea. And he died a natural death after he wrote the book of Revelation. And here's Jude, or Thaddeus, or Laodius. There's three different names for him. Judas or Jude. Not Judas Iscariot. We know that he hung himself. And then there's what they suggested. Could have been both there that he went through. And then Matthew, there's that one. Okay. So that's pretty intense. The guy who's writing this that we're reading. Peter, maybe you know this, is probably AD 63, AD 64, I think it is. He hung on a cross, only he preferred it to be hung upside down, so says the legend, because he didn't feel worthy to die on a cross like Jesus, so they went ahead and did that, hung him upside down. And so there's that one, he was crucified upside down. And then Philip, there's a couple suggestions here that he went through, and then Simon the Zealot. Ooh, I forgot to write that one out. Simon the Zealot, well, I'll just say he died. He got martyred, another one, definitely. And then Thomas, because I kind of don't want to go into what he went through. He was in India, they said, and a spear went through him. How awful. And there's, by the way, I put this in parentheses because this is the 12th. Matthias, who comes in Acts 1, he was nominated or kind of led by the Lord to actually become an apostle in the place of Judas Iscariot. So he took his place. Well, there you go. Just some more facts about these apostles. So this story is that here's one of the accounts, the records, the report by Matthew that these apostles, these 11, saw him. Some, by the way, saw with just one or two, or a few of them. Some, all of them. You know, it's kind of cool. And so this is the account. And it says they worshipped him. They saw him and bowed and worshipped him. And then it says some like doubted, which is pretty interesting. Some of them, it sounds like they doubted again. I think they're so, like, I can't believe this. This is crazy that we're seeing Jesus. But they literally, obviously, finally changed in their doubts, and their doubts were gone, and they knew absolutely. This might have been one of the first appearances, and I think that's what it is as I think about it. This is one of the first, maybe the second or third, and they were doubting their senses for a second. You know, they were doubting, like, I can't believe this. This is crazy, amazing. Or some of the other apostles, some of the disciples who weren't with them in the beginning. In other words, maybe Jesus showed up, and he showed up to the 12 or 11 apostles. Well, 10. Thomas was the third person in Jerusalem, and then in Galilee he showed up again. And that was the first time that maybe Jesus appeared to some of the other disciples, followers of Jesus, who was with him, and that's why they doubted. Like, what? I can't believe it. So that's my thinking on that. Anyway, God bless you, and thanks for listening. Let's go forward. Let's go to the next verse, and verses. And we're almost ending with Matthew 28. So I'm glad you're with me. God bless you. Bye.